Welcome back into Spotlight. As Chris has been talking about, SEC Media Days underway in Atlanta. Could tie or even break its own record for the most players drafted in the first round. So we are going to give you a mock draft Monday. 283 days now until the NFL draft. Yes, that's a long time away, but we're going to give it to you. Last year, a record-breaking 15 players were taken out of the SEC in the first round. This year could tie or even surpass that. Also, Clemson, a big shower in this year's mock draft. I guess this round of the mock draft. Let's welcome in Ryan Wilson, Mike Renner with Ryan Wilson's Mock Draft 1.0. You can find it there on CBSSports.com. We're going to start with a guy who would be number one, I assume, however, is not in your mock draft, Ryan. That is Arch Manning in Texas. We are assuming that he is going to stay. Are you still sticking with that assumption?
Hey, Amanda. Hey, Mike. I know you're a Sooner fan. You went to Oklahoma, and you would love nothing more than to see Arch Manning get out of Texas as soon as possible. But history with his uncles would tell you that he'll probably come back to school. It's not like he needs the money. Outside of winning the Heisman or perhaps the national title with the Longhorns, I could see him coming back. I mean, there's really no rush. Now, if he were coming out, he's going to be the first overall pick for all the obvious reasons and some of the not-so-obvious ones because you've only seen him play 2 games. But I thought, just to mix things up, I would leave him out of this mock draft because we'll be talking nonstop about him both on the college and NFL level for the next, let's see here, 283 days. So I'm going to give Arch Manning and the Mannings a break in this mock draft, but I'm sure that will change shortly. There's a lot to love about him. He's more athletic than his uncles in terms of his ability to run outside the pocket. He has a bigger arm than his uncles, I believe. But for now, Mike, I just decided to let Arch skip out on these top 32 picks.
I think that's completely fair, and I would be very surprised if he did declare. I think you hit the nail on the head that it has to be like a Heisman, Natty, double up for him to even consider it, especially with NIL today. But I do want to emphasize the people who are like, oh, we're giving him too much hype too soon. You flip on the tape, the guy is special. Like, from what I saw, he is the best quarterback in this draft class already. I don't care that it's such a limited tape. He will be a number 1 pick when he does decide to.
And Ryan, your latest podcast there, you talked with Rain Carthon about all of the quarterbacks in the SEC. So we find the next one there, going to the Saints and one. This is a team that has not had a consistent quarterback since Drew Brees. You have them taking LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Could he potentially be that guy for the Saints, Ryan?
Yeah, so Arch Manning obviously has connection with the Saints with his grandfather, Garrett Nussmeier's dad is the current OC in New Orleans, so there's some bloodlines there as well. And, you know, Mike and I and our buddy Rick Spielman talked about Garrett last summer in summer scouting with the quarterbacks. Had a fantastic start to his season. He's not the biggest player. He's not as tall as Arch. Doesn't have as big as arm. Not as good as athlete. But he is a coach's son through and through when you watch him play, and you get sort of the Phillip Rivers vibes in terms of how he sees the game. In terms of if you're looking for a comp, he can be Joe Burrow. He can also be Mac Jones, not the Alabama version, but the Jacksonville Jaguars version. The end of last year for LSU was a little rough at times. Felt like he was trying to do too much. So you want to see him not put too much on his plate, take the throws that are there, because he throws with better anticipation than anyone in this draft class. And I think if he plays the 2025 season like he did the first half of 2024, he's going to be a first-round pick. Then the only question becomes, how high could he end up going eventually?
Big kudos, Ryan, for the TV there behind you. Let's go to the Browns. I like that it says 283 days. The Browns at 2. Let's remind you the Browns have 2 first-round picks because of the trade they made with the Jags and this past draft, so the Jags could go ahead and get Travis Hunter. Ryan has them taking offensive lineman Kadyn Proctor out of Alabama, sticking with the SEC. Mike, what makes this guy so good? He's going number 2 overall.
Well, he's 6'7", 360 pounds, and until you actually read those numbers, you would not notice it by the way a guy moves on tape. I mean, offensive tackle is a very physical, traits-based position. You can identify the guys that succeed very early on in their careers, and Nick Saban did just that. He was a true freshman starter at left tackle for the Crimson Tide. That's a rarity. Guys like Evan Neal are in that mold, Jonah Williams. Usually when that's the case, you become a top 10 to top 12 pick in the NFL. So it's very easy to project him out there now. He still has issues in his game to improve and still has technical problems that I want to see fixed, but just the physicality that he brings to the table, it's top 10 ability.
Stick around for the Browns because they could potentially be taking a quarterback later on. Let's go to the Jets, though, at 3 right now. Ryan, you have them taking Clemson defensive end TJ Parker. I will tell you, Clemson showed out in the first round of this. You have them taking like 5 or 6 guys. Let's start with TJ Parker, though, led the team in sacks. What else do we need to know?
So he's the #1 player on my big board as we sit here through the course of the summer, and he is as juiced up an edge rusher as you'll find. He looks incredibly long on tape. His motor reminded me of Mike Green's motor coming out last year. He was a second-round pick. Should have been a first-round pick, not for off-field stuff. And I think the Jets, their defense is pretty good. Sometimes, ebbs and flows, of course. The front four is as solid as they come when they're healthy. But you can never have enough edge rushers. We saw the Giants do exactly that with Abdul Carter. And I think T.J. Parker has a chance to be truly special on the Clemson team that you talked about, Amanda, having a ton of guys on both sides of the ball with an opportunity to get drafted. His teammate, Peter Woods, that plays inside, is going to be a first-round pick as well. But right now, #1 on my big board. We'll see how that sorts itself out for the next 283 days.
You can never have enough edge rushers, and you can never have enough good offensive linemen, and that is what you were giving the Giants at 4 there. Out of Utah, Spencer, is it Fano or Fano? But either way, Mike, I love the word Ryan used to describe him, technician.
Yeah, Fano, I haven't dropped my rankings yet, but just a little sneak peek. He is going to be my OT1. He is going to be a top 5 player in this class for me. He has, for my money, the best sophomore tape I've seen at the offensive tackle position since Penei Sewell. His ability to get out of his stance, how technically sound he is at that young an age, he's just going to be special. You just can see it already on his tape. He doesn't even need to improve to be a guy picked in this sort of range. And just his ability in a wide zone or inside zone scheme, I think is perfect fit. And the right tackle position for the Giants, obviously, after drafting Evan Neal, has still been a question mark. I think he'd fit in perfectly.
Let's go to the Titans at #5, the team that had the #1 overall pick last year. They took him word with that. Look, there's so many questions with this Titans team, which is why we're focusing on the players. Another Clemson guy, Ryan, defensive lineman Peter Wood, 6'3", 315. What else?
Yeah, so we talked a couple years about Myles Murphy and Brian Brzee, both first-round picks. I think this group that we just talked about with Peter Woods here and T.J. Parker a moment ago, they can end up being better, and perhaps that's a stretch. We'll find out. But also a technician, plays with great hands, uses his hands well, incredibly athletic for his size. You can see him there. He's not going to be a guy coming off the edge of 255. He's a little bit bigger than that, but extremely powerful. And where's Brian Brezee's number 11 there? Tennessee Titans have Jeffrey Simmons. We'll see what his long-term prospects are in Tennessee. He's obviously a fantastic player, but the idea of lining him up next to Jeffrey Simmons there, that's pretty appealing if you're the Tennessee Titans trying to make that defense a little better than it has been in recent years.
A lot of questions for the Titans, maybe even more questions, but it'll be very interesting to watch this Raiders team. You get a new look and their head coach there. You get a new quarterback, new ownership, new-ish ownership with Tom Brady, an area where they're going to find more stability, according to Ryan, as a secondary. And this is a name, Ryan and Mike, that you're going to hear so much about. Safety, Caleb Downs, one of the most popular names we have heard so far. Mike, how high could he potentially go in this draft? Do you think he would find him here?
Yeah, I think he could be the highest drafted safety since like Jamal Adams, who I believe went number 6 overall almost a decade ago here. So he truly is special talent. Easily the best safety prospect since Kyle Hamilton. He was a freshman starter at Alabama, sophomore starter for Ohio State. And for the Raiders, they have a massive need at anywhere in the secondary, so he fits for them. But when I watch Downs' tape, it reminds me of when you played like Madden 2005 and you could just change directions and not lose speed. That's how he looks covering on the back end. He just changes directions, he turns, and all of a sudden he is still at top speed, chasing down ball carriers. This is the kind of safety that every team in the NFL wants. Easily worth a top 10 pick.
Let's go to the Panthers at 7 here. Ryan, you did very good with your descriptions. I liked it. We had technician earlier. You described this next gentleman as earth mover. Who is that?
Yeah, Francis Mauigoa, and it's funny because producer James was asking me 15 different ways to pronounce his name. I had to look it up 3 or 4 times because I mispronounced it when we talked about him earlier in the summer, and people just came after me. So I apologize, Francis. Fantastic player, earth mover, no doubt about it. And again, this offensive line class is going to be interesting because last year's offensive line class got better as we got through the draft process. And I agree with Mike. Fanu is special. I like Proctor a little better, but I think there's an opportunity to have 2 or 3 or 4 guys going to the top 15 of the offensive line position as we sit here, and we'll see how this sorts itself out. He's a right tackle only, and that just depends on your offensive line and your quarterback situation, but I think he is worthy of a high-round pick. Excuse me. He reminded me a little bit of Troy Fautanu, who was a Steelers first-round pick a few years ago, who can play left or right tackle, and maybe Mauigoa has that versatility as well. We'll find out. But I think if he goes somewhere in this range as we sit here in mid-July, it would not surprise me.
I will tell you, our producer doesn't trust me either because he told me to have you pronounce the name. So say it one more time for us, Ryan, so everybody knows and nobody comes at you.
Mauigoa, I'm 85% sure. So Francis, let me know if I got that wrong, but I think it's Mauigoa, and maybe Mike knows better than I do.
There's
as well.
always that 15%. Let's go to the Colts today. Mike, you did get this one, and it's very interesting. We have them taking Penn State quarterback Drew Allar, the second quarterback off the board. We've talked about this a lot. He could have gone back to Penn State. He decided to instead of going into the draft. What more do you think you want to see from him, Mike, this upcoming season?
Truthfully, a lot more. I mean, he is not at a top 10 pick sort of level on tape from a year ago. Nussmeier may have been, right? Drew Allar not. He has things to improve. The biggest one is just accuracy. You see down-to-down consistency of his spiral, and it is not what you want to see from a guy you're drafting at this point in the draft. But now the biggest thing is, from his freshman year to his sophomore year, you saw improvement. So his sophomore year to his junior year, you saw massive improvement. So what's his junior year to senior year going to look like? Because obviously everyone there in that Penn State program raves about this guy. So that's, to me, is the biggest thing is one more year of improvement. The guy has the tools to go, he could even go higher than Arch Manning. That's how freaky this guy is as an athlete with his size, with his ability to push the ball down the football field. But there's still a lot to work on in this game.
All right, we're going to see over the next 283 days. We are far from done, though, right here. Guys, hang on just a second. Recapping picks 1 through 8 there. 2 quarterbacks off the board. Saints, maybe they get their quarterback of the future in Garrett Nussmeier. The Colts going with Drew Allar, who both Mike and Ryan would like to see big improvement from this upcoming season. And the Raiders, star safety, Caleb Downs. Coming up, the Steelers appear they will yet again be looking for another quarterback next season. Aaron Rodgers, quote, pretty sure it'll be his last year. So with 2 off the board, where can they turn? We have the answer. Welcome back into Spotlight here on your Monday, Mock Draft Monday, 283 days, but we got SEC days going on. Big Ten is next week. Ryan Wilson, Mike Renner. We're going to pick it up with the Browns at 9. This is their second pick in the first round. With the number 2 overall pick, you had them taking Alabama offensive lineman Kadyn Proctor. You're going with a D-line out of Miami, Rueben Bain, and you're trying to come up with a good comp for him, if you will.
Yeah, Ed Oliver meets Jared versus what I wrote in the mock draft right up at CBSSports.com. And look, he's 6'3", 275, so he's not exactly sawed off, but he's also not your prototypical edge rusher. He can get after it. Bowling ball who can line up anywhere from 3 technique to all the way out to the 9 technique. And if you can envision Ed Oliver and Jared versus one person, it looks a lot like Rueben Bain Jr. Want to see a little bit more consistency, but I love the idea of him lining up next to Myles Garrett and this year's first-round pick, Mason Graham.
I am very disappointed in myself. I just want you to know I was listening to the wide receivers episode, and I didn't get through all of it here. So I'm a little behind on those guys. Let's go to the Dolphins at 10. You do have them taking a wide receiver out of Clemson, Antonio Williams. I do know he had, about 8 drops last season, but a lot of potential. Mike, how good could this guy be if he can hang on to the ball?
Yeah, I mean, he could be top 10 pick worthy, especially if it's a team like the Miami Dolphins who covet his sort of dynamism because he is fast in a straight line. He's fast going left. He's fast changing directions. The guy is just tuned up. I mean, he is fast going whichever way he wants to. He's a primarily slot receiver, but he can really get vertical out of the slot. And for the Miami Dolphins, they're obviously going to lose Tyreak Hill after this season. This feels like the perfect sort of replacement for them.
We go to the Rams at 11. They have 2 picks in the first round. You're going with the smarty pants pick, Ryan. Duke cornerback Chandler Rivers. You said he plays like an old school middle linebacker. Why is that? Look, they are smart. Like, he's a Duke. What am I supposed to say? I went to Oklahoma. It wasn't that hard.
No, I love it. I love the appreciation for the academic requirements to get into Duke University.
Yeah.
Chandler Rivers is one of those guys that he popped into your radar, and then you watch him and you go, oh my gosh, how have I not heard about this guy? Reminded me a little bit of Maxwell Harrison in the way that he plays, like with his hair on fire, throwing his body around. But he can play in the slot. He can play outside. He's incredibly physical. 5'10", 180, plays much bigger and stronger than that. And that size may eventually impact where he's drafted. But right now, he's my cornerback 1 because of his mentality and physicality with how he approaches playing that position.
All right, if we're talking about size, we got to go to this next one. Going to the Patriots at 12, another SEC guy, offensive lineman Xavier Chaplin, 6'7", 338. What else do we need to know about him, Mike?
Well, we talked about, arm length of the Patriots all offseason. This guy, we're not going to have to talk about. He's got some of the longest arms in this class. He's 6'7", 338 pounds, crazy long, and can explode off football. He reminds you a lot of Tyler Guyton, first-round pick for the Cowboys last year. 3 seasons at Virginia Tech, 2 as a starter at left tackle, obviously transferred to Auburn this offseason. I think for the New England Patriots, they're going to have to address the offensive line yet again next year. They made a lot of improvements, but it's still probably not quite to the avenue or not quite to the level that you want to see with Drake May at quarterback.
We are going to the Seahawks at 13. Ryan, I like this guy. I'm a little mad at him. LT Overton, his dad played at Oklahoma. He should have gone there, started off at Texas A&M, then decided to go to Alabama, just, went all around Oklahoma. Why is he so good for the Seahawks team?
I think John Mateer is going to solve a lot of your problems, Amanda. That's going to be a wild ride at the quarterback position. So we'll talk about that as we get through it. In terms of LT Overton, these guys are enormous now coming off the edge. 6'5", 280. He is so bendy for his size that it almost takes your breath away to see someone that size move the way he does. No surprise, he plays with great hands, very violent at the point of attack. He feels like an Alabama edge rusher. And he also, with that size, feels like he would fit what Seattle historically looks for. Even if Mike McDonald is only in year 2 there, I feel like he would find a way to use LT Overton in much the same way we've seen him have success in Tuscaloosa.
Let's go to the Steelers at 14. Not because of the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. This is my most exciting player in the draft so far. Ryan, I'm falling in love with this guy here. Fernando Mendoza went to Cal, was playing behind a very, very bad offensive line. He was sacked a zillion times, transferring to Indiana. And this kid's kind of a dark horse right now, Mike Renner.
Oh, 100%. And I'm so excited to see what he can do at Indiana because the situation around him is really going to be night and day. You said it was a bad offensive line. It was the worst I saw of any quarterback when I went through summer scouting. It was basically if he hit his back foot and the ball wasn't out, he was getting hit on that play. His offensive line was not going to give him a second, a third read. So it's really difficult to evaluate in that sort of, in that situation. But when he did have a little bit of time, when he was able to get to a second, third read, his arm talent really showed. And for a Pittsburgh Steelers team that obviously plays in an outdoor division, Mendoza is the perfect type of quarterback to fit into that offense.
And if you want to hear more, we're going to recap the picks here, but I'm going to give a little shout out to the pod right there, going through all of some of the top quarterbacks in this year's draft. Ryan Wilson, Rand Carthon talk about it. Fernando Mendoza, keep an eye on him going to the Steelers at 14. Coming up, no running backs off the board yet. A big name, Jeremiyah Love out of Notre Dame, a guy who can trip up defenders all over the place. Where could his new home be? We have it for you next. On Spotlight, a little mock draft Monday for you. 283 days away from the NFL draft, but why not? Hey, we're in July. We got to talk about something. We're picking it up with the Cowboys at 15, and here we find the first running back off the board. Last year, Mike, I'm going to give this one to you as our Notre Dame guy. It was all about Ashton Jeanty. Really didn't focus on anyone else, but now we have Jeremiyah Love, and I'm even seeing articles about potential Heisman finalists for this kid.
Yeah, I think it's very well within the realm of possibility because when you watch his tape, he's the most dynamic athlete in college football. His speed is out of this world. He had a 98-yarder in the playoff against Indiana. and on a bum knee for most of that playoff was still a major factor in a lot of games, the Penn State game as well. So that's him as a 19-year-old sophomore. I'm very excited to see what this guy does when he has some more time in the weight room, because he is still a little bit on the skinnier side. He fills out his frame and really adds some more power to his game. He could go even higher than this. I mean, he could go in the Ashton Genty range of running backs. That's how good he is already.
All right, keep an eye on Jeremiyah Love there out of Notre Dame. Let's go to the Cardinals at 16. Our second wide receiver off the board, Washington's Denzel Boston, started every single game last season. And if it matters, because to some people it does, Mike, he has a very good video game rating, I read.
Ooh.
I don't play the video games. So congrats to him.
I can see why. He's got a big-time catch radius, massive frame. He's a long type of possession wide receiver. Breakout year as a junior, 834 yards, 9 touchdowns. But I got to say this, my first big disagreement with Ryan, if I was Arizona here, I'm going just down the road to Arizona State, and I'll pick a Jordan Tyson. To me, he is the best wide receiver in this draft class at this point in time. Denzel Boston, a good prospect. Jordan Tyson just a little bit better.
We'll go to the Bears at 17 here. How about this headline? Florida man goes to Chicago. Alligators do not follow, though. Linebacker Tyreak Sapp led the team with 7 sacks, 13 tackles for loss. Ryan, what else do we need to know about him?
You should write headlines, Amanda. That was a good one. And
look,
like
your Monday morning headlines.
Mike's not wrong about Jordan Tyson. Yeah, Mike's not wrong about Jordan Tyson. These guys are going to be fun to watch, and certainly I'm glad he got a shout out here. Tyreak Sapp, meanwhile, is great against the run. Might be one of the best run defenders at the S position in this draft class as we currently sit here. Another sawed-off bowling ball, 6'2", 272. He will win with his bull rush. He needs to diversify his pass rush moves. There's time to sort that out. But I think the physicality and athleticism he plays with makes him a first-round conversation player right now as we sit here.
We pick it up with the Broncos at 18. By the way, you can find Ryan's mock draft on CBSSports.com. And Ryan, look, normally you have like huge paragraphs, and I think you got tired here with this pick because you had one sentence. High motor, high-end athlete who excels versus the run, the pass, and as a pass rusher. Linebacker C.J. Allen. All good things. But I think he needed a cup of coffee then. So, Mike, give us a little more about him.
Yeah, I mean, he can really fly sideline to sideline. When I watched his tape and you put him at the second level, and when Jalen Walker, 15th overall pick in this past draft of the Falcons, was off ball as well, just like identical body types. They have the same sort of broad shoulders, squatty body that can really come downhill and send an offensive lineman backwards. And so that's what you saw from him. And for a Denver Broncos team that loves to use those second level guys as blitzers, he can get home in a hurry and he can be a value add to their run defense. So for the Broncos, a talent like him makes a lot of sense next to Dre Greenlaw.
We mentioned a lot of SEC players in this draft. We'll continue with the Texans at 19. South Carolina DB Jalon Kilgore, second team all SEC, long arms, long legs, good speed. Ryan, how helpful could he be to the Texans team?
I'm shaking my head because it feels like they just produced these guys in South Carolina. Nic Anderson, someone who we talked a lot about last year, second-round pick to the Seattle Seahawks. And I think Jalon Kilgore has a chance to be just as good. He's not going to – I don't imagine he's going to test as highly as Nic Anderson did. Maybe I'm wrong, but you touched on all the things he does well. He's surprisingly good in coverage. He can play in the slot as a big slot, but he moves like a smaller player. And then he will absolutely destroy you coming downhill in the run game. And you might say the Houston Texans have plenty of needs in the secondary. You can never have enough guys like this. And I think if he plays the way I expect him to play based on what we saw in 2024, we're going to have some first-round conversations about just how high Kilgore ends up going.
Vikings at 19, or excuse me, Texans at 19, Vikings at 20. I'm worried about Clemson next season. I'll just tell you that because we have another Clemson guy going off the board. Cornerback Avieon Terrell, his brother A.J. Terrell plays for the Falcons. Same position there. Mike, how does he compare to his brother?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I like looking at, brothers and how they play. You have like the Bosa brothers who are darn near identical. You have James Cook and Dalvin Cook who are darn near identical. But this to me is more like a TJ Watt, JJ Watt thing, where JJ is this massive sort of interior defensive lineman. That's like AJ Terrell. He's this long corner who really gets it done on the line of scrimmage. Avion's the shorter, shiftier TJ Watt who can really match up athlete versus athlete against opposing wide receivers. And oh, by the way, he also is a guy who will come up and fill in the running game. So while he plays on the outside at Clemson, I think he could even be a slot corner at the next level as well. And just you see already the innate physical gifts on tape that make you feel good about projecting this guy in the first round.
And plus, look, he knows he gets all the lessons early from his brother already there in the league. Guys, hang on. We've made it through a good chunk of this already through 20. Jeremiyah Love, the first running back off the board. Mike said keep an eye on him out of Notre Dame. Could potentially go much higher than this. And then the brother of AJ Terrell, Avieon Terrell, to the Vikings at 20. So the Rams have 2 first-round picks. Could they be looking for their future and replacing Matt Stafford? Ryan says yes. We'll tell you which quarterback he has them taking after the break. HQ Spotlight here on a Monday, Mock Draft 1.0. You can find Ryan's at cbssports.com. If you've missed it, we're at the Bucs at 21. And Ryan, I gave you a little flack earlier from one of your descriptions. I said you got a little tired. You got your cup of coffee here. Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq, the longest description of any player that I saw. He's a tight end, but also a special team standout. So what all can this guy do?
Thank you for your positive reinforcement there. Yeah, you don't often lead with a special team standout when you're evaluating guys in the summer, but they lined him up at quarterback 4 different times in extra point situations. But he is an insane athlete, and I'll give Mike credit. Last summer, he was high on Terrence Ferguson before anyone else was. I think Sadiq is a better athlete than Terrence Ferguson, and I think he has a chance to be a better player as he continues to grow. And Ferguson's going to probably pretty explosive early on for the Rams. So I loved his tape last fall when he was tight end 2. He'll get an opportunity to be tight end 1 this season and perhaps grow what we saw from a year ago. But there's a lot to love, both physically and in terms of playmaking ability from Kenyon after what we saw in 2024.
Go check it out. It was literally like, well, I don't think I can do that on TV. 49ers at 22, Tennessee DB, Jermod McCoy, first team All-SEC. Ryan said in his article that he might be the best cornerback in the class versus go routes. Mike, do you agree?
I do. To me, when I flipped on his tape and compared to the rest of the corners in this draft class, I thought he was the best athlete. I mean, just smooth in and out of his breaks, and then the speed to make up down the football field. He's got a great body type for the position, too. You see their really long arms, 4 picks, 6 pass breakups a year ago. Inconsistent at this point, but he's gone from Oregon State to Tennessee to start his career now. I think another year in this Tennessee defense, I think he could get and play his way into like top 10 sort of selection. That's the kind of athlete he is.
We go to the Chargers at 23. Apparently, I'll be cheering for the Chargers. Sooner Nation represent Oklahoma D lineman R. Mason Thomas. I'm going to tell you nothing about football. Everybody's going to want to know. R. Mason Thomas, is that his name? It's the real name. It's the first initial. His mom said there's a lot of R names on her side, but she didn't want to name him with an R name, so she just went with R. R. Mason. Ryan, you can fill out the rest.
From R. Mason to R. Wilson. That'll start calling me that, please. He's only listed at 240. It feels like the Sooners have the market cornered on quote-unquote undersized edge rushers who are absolutely electric. He reminds me a little bit, by the way, of Nick Benito in that sense. I mentioned in the write-up that I thought he was better against the run than Donovan Ezeraku and maybe a little bit more electric as a pass rusher. He flashed every time you turned on Oklahoma tape, no matter who you were IDing in the moment. So I give Mr. R a lot of credit for the way he played last year, and I think he's going to continue along that trend. And then the question becomes, should he be a first-round pick at that size? If he has 10 pounds, we won't have to have that conversation. Ezeraku was a second-round pick. Nick Benito was a second-round pick. Maybe in hindsight, Nick could have gone a little higher, but a lot of fun to watch last fall.
Bengals at 24. And it's just R. Mason, not R. period, he said. R. Space Mason. Okay, either way, Bengals at 24, another Oregon player here, transfer from Nevada. Offensive lineman Isaiah World. Ryan said in his article he might play with the best balance of any offensive tackle in recent memory. Mike, what do you like about this guy?
Yeah, I love what he can do in pass protection, and he has a great opportunity here now transferring after 3 years at Nevada, 3 years as a starter to Oregon, that jump up in competition level to really prove himself because not a lot of people beat this guy in pass pro last year. He went from 34 pressures allowed in 2023 to only 15 this past season. That year-on-year improvement, if it keeps going with his physical tools at 6'8", 309, this guy's going to be a first-round pick.
Ryan, you're very nice in all your descriptions here. We're going to go to the Packers at 25. We're getting a lot of the best, right? He might be the best at this. He might be the best at this. So we have Penn State. A.J. Harris might be the best cornerback tackler in this class. What makes him so dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, he's a rapid tackler. I think I described him as a no-yak tackling machine, no yards after the catch. So if you make a reception, he's going to bring you down to that point. He's not going to get drugged 5 to 10 yards down the field by a bigger wide receiver or tight end. And my comp for him was Nate Wiggins, in part because of the size, 6'1", 184, but his mentality. And we see it feels like a lot of these cornerbacks coming out of college play with this chip on their shoulder that maybe we didn't see as consistently in years past. He reminds me a lot of Nate Wiggins in that sense. Physically, he reminds me of Nate Wiggins, and I think he's going to test well athletically. But as you mentioned, I also like his ability to come downhill and play the run, which is something you don't always see from cornerbacks coming out of college.
We go to the Commanders at 26. I loved reading about this guy, wide receiver out of LSU, Aaron Anderson. He's undersized. He was voted as LSU's most improved offensive player last season. Mike, how did he improve last season, and what more could we see?
He improved by just getting the playing time, giving the opportunity, and having, not 2 first-round picks in front of him, and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., right? So that helped, and having Garrett Nussmeier throw him the football, but also just this guy is electric. He's got an uphill climb to be a first-rounder. When you're 5'8" at the wide receiver position, usually those guys tend to get passed over. Reminds me a lot of a Rondale Moore, and he goes to an offense with Cliff Kingsbury, who, he drafted Rondale Moore out there in Arizona, so it would make a lot of sense. 874 yards, 20 broken tackles after the catch. There's a lot of guys kind of in this mold, undersized, shifty, dynamic playmakers. To me, he's the best one, though, in this class.
We go to the Rams at 27. Things get interesting here. Their second pick at the first round, potentially a replacement for Matt Stafford, Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik, the 5th player going from Clemson. Ryan, it's interesting. I was listening to the pod. You and Rand sort of disagree on him. Rand Carthon said he wanted to see how tough he was. Maybe he wasn't tough enough. It's a very interesting listen. Give us your take on Cade Klubnik, not just for the Rams, but kind of how he stacks up in this quarterback class.
Yeah, 5-star coming out, arriving in Clemson, and I thought he had the reverse Garrett Nussmeier season a year ago. He started off slow, but then the more you watch him, the better he got. He's a fantastic touch on the deep balls. He can layer the ball to the second level. He will sometimes misfire on these intermediate throws, but I think a lot of young quarterbacks, that is not uncommon with them. And I think he's plenty tough. I think the bigger issue, though, Amanda and Mike, is that how big is he? Is he going to be 6'2", or is he going to be 6'0" and change? Because that's going to be a decisive factor in how high he gets drafted. I think if he can build on the second half of last season, he's going to be in this first-round conversation. My comp for him, and Mike, I would like to hear his thoughts, is Bo Nix, because Mike's a big Bo Nix guy in terms of the toughness and the smartness with which he plays, but I need to see a little bit more consistency like we saw in the second half of the season, not in the first half.
Yeah, I think he has similar sort of tools to a Bo Nix. And also, he has the similar sort of storyline. Now, he didn't have to transfer, but I love these quarterbacks who start earlier in their careers at these blue blood top programs and take their lumps. He was not a fan favorite early on. He did not. He came in as a highly touted recruit and did not live up to the hype. But now he is. Junior year had this breakout season, and that just shows the competitor he is. That shows the toughness he has. And if he builds on what he did last year, I think this is even too low. I mean, it's a great quarterback class incoming, and he could be right up there in the mix for quarterback one.
Since Ryan had Fernando Mendoza going so much higher, Mike, do you disagree with that?
No, not at this moment in time. I think Mendoza, you've already seen him in a really bad situation play at a high level, and I think he has a little bit more prototypical size arm strength, but there are a lot of names to choose from about who's going to be the breakout guy this year, and I think all of them, all the guys we've touched on already, could play their way into top 10 selection. This could be the quarterback class we just saw a couple years ago that had 6 guys go in the top 15.
I love it because it makes me so excited for this football season. Taking a look at our last amount of picks. Look, 283 days to the draft, but college football is just around the corner, guys. Isaiah World, keep an eye on him, and Cade Klubnik. A lot to discuss about what he could potentially look like this upcoming season at Clemson. How high could he go right now? Ryan has him going to the Rams at 27. So we're talking about the quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks off the board, but could one more sneak in? We need to talk about South Carolina's quarterback, Lanorris Sellers. He lands at the end of the draft. We'll tell you where. Spotlight on a Monday. We are ending our mock draft 1.0. Still a couple picks to go. We're going to start with the Lions at 28. This is interesting. Mike, I'm going to go to you on this because when I was reading Ryan's description of this guy, Keldric Faulk out of Auburn, defensive lineman, it seemed like there was a lot of room for improvement according to his description there. Talks about things he lacks, but you love this guy.
I do, because there's a lot of room for improvement. He was already pretty good. He had 45 pressures last year as a sophomore. When I watch his tape at 6'6", 280 pounds, he reminds me of Tyree Wilson, who obviously, he went top 10 himself just because of the projection of what he could be. And I see this guy doing that at a much younger age. Tyree Wilson was a 5th year coming out. This is going to be a true junior. So the year-on-year improvement, if he continues the upward ascension with his get-off, with his length, this is the kind of defensive end that fits in every single scheme. Every single team in the NFL will want to covet this guy. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 9 months from now, this is the guy you were too low on, Ryan. This is the guy who I think is going to go top 10 in the draft.
All right, what about this next guy? Let's go to the Chiefs at 29, Ole Miss linebacker Suntarine Perkins. You guys were actually talking about him during the break. Undersized, he's only 210. But Ryan, you said he's absolutely crazy when he gets on the field.
Yeah, we're going to go from 6'6", 280, Keldric Faulk, to 6'1", 210, Suntarine Perkins. But again, this is another guy that you turn on, and that Ole Miss defense was absolutely stacked. We spent a lot of time last draft cycle talking about all those dudes, and we didn't talk about Perkins because he wasn't coming out. But he looks like a wide receiver there, but he is so incredibly juiced up. Look, he can't play edge rush at 210 in the NFL, but maybe you can play him at off-ball linebacker or maybe this hybrid safety position. He almost certainly won't be a top 32 pick, but he's going to be one of my favorites as we get through this process based on the way he played. And the idea of him playing in the Chiefs, where they could use him wherever, also is sort of intriguing to me. But again, I'm going to be his biggest fan for a while. Amanda, I fall in love, so he's one of my early hearts as we sit here in mid-July.
We need that for next season. They just get hearts from Ryan. Let's go to the Bills at 30. Didn't see a lot of wide receivers early. Now we're kind of starting to see a run on them in the last third of the draft here. The Bills taking from Auburn, although he's a transfer from Georgia Tech, Eric Singleton. Mike, how much do you like this guy? Any chance for him to move up the board?
Yeah, I said there's a lot of guys in this mold in this class when I talked about Aaron Anderson. He's undersized. He's 5'10", 178 pounds, but dynamic. I mean, he's just a plus athlete through and through. Over 700 yards both his freshman and sophomore year. But the thing was, he was playing at Georgia Tech. It was not a great passing offense. Now he's transferring to Auburn. I'm very curious to see how he'll be featured in that offense where they have a lot of great youngsters, a lot of great sophomores coming up in that offense as well. So he may get a little lost in the shuffle because of it, but this guy has deep threat written all over him.
Let's go to the Ravens at 21. As mentioned, starting to see a little bit of a run on wide receivers here. Nic Anderson, he's now at LSU from Oklahoma. Don't know why that happened. Set records in OU for touchdown catches by a freshman. Ryan, fix it.
Yeah, and he's the prototypical size, even a little bigger than the wide receivers Mike's been talking about at 6'4" and 210. Didn't play last year because of the injury. 2023 was a lot of fun to watch. At the time for Sooners fans because of those 10 touchdowns he had as a rookie. And Garrett Nussmeier will have no excuses because he will have all sorts of weapons lining up for him. And it's going to be fun to watch Nic Anderson move to that offense and be in a high-profile passing offense to see what he's capable of doing. A lot to like about the way he played in 2023. Just needs to stay healthy in 2025.
You didn't fix it, Ryan. You didn't fix it, but that's fine. It's okay. I have faith. We have a new quarterback. It's going to be very interesting. Finally, Jets at 32 here. Both of you guys are going to weigh in because this one's very interesting. We have a mock trade with the Jets moving back into the first round, trading from the Eagles. Lanorris Sellers, quarterback, South Carolina. Ryan, why did you want to make this happen?
So they took T.J. Parker, the edge rusher, with their first-round pick. Lanorris Sellers, if you're going to go in the Justin Fields offense, he would be an upgrade, I think. Now, the concern is this, and South Carolina fans get very angry when you don't have Lanorris as a top-5 pick. He might be, in no disrespect, I've heard scouts say this about Jalen Hurts, he might be the best running back in the SEC, and I mean that in the best possible light, but he has to be more consistent as a passer to all 3 levels. He does not throw with anticipation. That's something that needs to happen. When he is on, passing-wise, he is absolutely electric. It's just inconsistent, and that's what happens when you're a sophomore. And I think Mike mentioned this during the break, and I agree. I hope he comes back, like I hope Arch Manning comes back for 2026. But should he come out, based on a really good 2025 season, there's going to be a lot of conversation about where he goes and what he needs to do to continue to improve as a passer in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the conversation around him is going to be very similar to what it was around Anthony Richardson when he was coming out of Florida, and that he is going to be raw. If he comes out this year, he'll be drafted as a 20-year-old. Won't even be able to drink on draft day when he's taken. So that's why I don't think he goes, I give it a 0% chance that he goes 32 overall. Because if he comes out, it's because he has some assurance that he's going to be a top 5 to 10 pick, because his tools are top 5 to 10. And even compared to Richardson, who was the freakiest testing athlete at the quarterback position in combine history, he evades tackles even better, in my opinion. I've never seen a college quarterback take so many direct hits in the pocket from defensive linemen and not go down. He is truly unique in that regard. So a lot to like physically, but if you just watch his pure passing tape, it leaves a lot to be desired. I hope, and with his given his turned down some big NIL deals, that he continues and stays at South Carolina until he develops as a passer, because then it's top 5 at worst if he does that.
Anthony Richardson himself with a lot to prove this season, considering Ryan has the Colts taking a quarterback in this latest mock. Recapping picks 28 through 32, Keldric Faulk, a guy that Mike says he is absolutely in love with. Suntarine Perkins, a guy that Ryan is in love with. Just so much love here. And Lanorris Sellers, quarterback out of South Carolina, sneaking into the first round. A mock trade between the Jets and the Eagles. So that pretty much does it for this hour of CBS Sports HQ Spotlight. Ryan Wilson, your mock draft 1.0, 283 days away from the NFL draft. Biggest takeaways. Quarterback class is deep, wide receivers are better than we thought, or Clemson is in big trouble next season?
5 quarterbacks in this draft class. There could be even more. Arch Manning, Nico Yemayava, Carson Beck, Sam Levitt, all names to keep in mind. So maybe we have closer to 10. Amanda and Mike by the time we get to the actual draft.
And I will say that Clemson needs to start recruiting already for 2026-27. Ryan Wilson, Mike Renner, we appreciate it with the first pick. So many good episodes going on right now, talking about the quarterbacks, wide receiver class. Make sure to go download and follow.